Good morning, everyone. I was actually looking to hear something and listening to hear something like Doctor. Saints, it seems to be the fever this morning. Okay. I want to say that it is indeed an honor and a privilege for me to rise to address today's opening ceremony of this midterm delegates conference of the Congress of Trade Unions and Staff Associations of Barbados. As I acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Colin Jordan, Member of Parliament, Minister of Labour, Social Security and Third Sector, my General Secretary, Dennis DePisa, doctor for today, Dr. Henley Sobers, our feature speaker, Dr. Tricia Tanis, Chairman of the Barbados Private Sector Association, a lady that I've grown to admire her stance at the battlefield. Welcome. Miss Sandra Messiah, Sister Sandra Messiah, Sub-Regional Secretary for the Caribbean Public Services International. Our Sister Marguerite Wilson, who stood in for the canon who could not make it at last minute. Our officers, specially invited guests, delegates, and observers, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I do this morning with a sense of deep conviction and understanding that as president of this National Trade Union Center, that I have a responsibility to account for my stewardship over the last year and to voice the concerns of the collective under the labor umbrella. The point is to be made abundantly clear that this event is not just a checkpoint in our administrative term, but a reaffirmation of the role as a pillar of national governance, a defender of decent work, and a voice of conscience for the working people of this country. As president, I am humbled by the opportunity to report on our journey thus far, the advances which have been made, the lessons learned, and our vision for the future. We have been intentional in our reshaping of the Congress of Trade Unions and Staff Associations of Barbados into a modern labor institution, one that is not only about advocacy and negotiation, but also a strategic actor in national and regional development. In the last few months, CTUSAB has made significant strides in the process of operational reform. We have implemented monitoring tools for our representatives serving on boards of management of public schools and soon to be for all other boards to which we represent. There has been a restructuring of our organization's communication services to improve efficiency while reducing costs. These changes, while practical, reflect on our commitment to becoming more agile, transparent, and accountable. CTUSAB has placed much attention on policy development matters and advocacy. I can report that CTUSAB has submitted comprehensive proposals to the Social Partnership on National Crime Reduction and Youth Restoration. Our submissions offer a bold and holistic approach to addressing societal breakdowns. The Congress has been constructively engaged in regional, dialogue on the movement of people and the treatment of workers under the CARICOM single market and economy. On the subject of drafting of the Protocol 7, CTUSAB has been seriously inputting, as you would have heard, into this document, placing much emphasis on maintaining the institutional structure of tripartism and fighting against the proposed radical change to the original structure, which only contributes to the fragmentation of labor and downplays the role of CTUSAB as the representative voice of labor at the level of the social partnership. CTUSAB hastens to admit that it has been raising critical questions about the construct of Protocol 7 and its implementation. During the period under review, September 2024 to 2025, CTUSAB has made some steps forward, but yet the organization remains faced with real, persistent challenges. The demands of CTUSAB as a national organization require serious consideration is given by government to the full-time paid release of its General Secretary and President. This call extends to include that a similar release arrangement is made for one full-time officer for the National Union of Teachers and the Barbados Nurses Association. It has now been over 15 years that CTUSAB has repeatedly placed this request to government within its submission of the public sector wages and salary agreement. The basis of this request can easily be justified on the scope of our work, the speed of national developments, and the fact that complexity of labor and social issues demand consistent strategic leadership. Workers, working class people, and civil society members deserve nothing less than a fully dedicated executive corps that is not a luxury, it is an operational necessity. Secondly, financial independence remains one of the CTUSAB's most urgent imperatives. A movement that depends entirely on subscription and goodwill is vulnerable to silence, manipulation, or irrelevance. We must diversify our income streams through training institutes, regional consultancy, and international partnerships. Our independence is the price of our integrity. In this regard, CTUSAB is working to develop training programs that are income generating. It could benefit from base funding support from government and the private sector in getting these initiatives off the ground. As we look to our external challenges, we cannot ignore the fractures within the social partnership. CTUSAB continues to be underrepresented or even excluded from several key national boards and committees. This includes bodies that make decisions on national immigration, education reform, and climate transition. These are not trivial omissions. These are spaces where labor must have a voice. This must be seen as a formality. This must not be seen, as a formality, but instead to see labor as a participant in shaping Barbados' future. If CTUSAB, as the workers' representative, is indeed one of the three national pillars of development, then our presence must be symbolic. Sorry, must not be symbolic, but it must be substantial. Moreover, CTUSAB remains deeply concerned about the status of non-financial benefits promised during the last public sector salary negotiations. Commitments were made around early retirement schemes, wellness provisions, and improved occupational protections. These benefits are not secondary. They are essential to the dignity and the productivity of our workers. We call on government to honor its word, not selectively, but comprehensively. In addition, CTUSAB must highlight a number of pressing sectoral issues which remain unresolved and require the urgent attention in order to be addressed. These include the bonding of student nurses, the non-payment of overtime to nurses, provision of uniform allowances to nurses at the QEH, the functioning of the Teachers Services Commission, the rollout of interest-free car loan systems, POLTA, to assist with reliable transportation for members of the protective services and nurses. The reinstatement of a term's leave to teachers as a part of their conditions of service. Personal accident insurance for members of the protective services and nurses in the first instance. The introduction of hazard and risk allowances for high-risk duties within the essential services, inclusive of nurses, and hazard pay for prison officers. The implementation of flexible retirement plans and establishing a mandatory retirement age for members of the protective services and nurses. Implementation of enhanced pension benefits for long-serving members of the protective services and healthcare professionals, which includes doctors. At this time, there is the issue of the shifting landscape of work. The emergence of new economic models such as remote work, digital services, the gig economy, and AI-driven automation, all combine to both a challenge and an opportunity for trade unions. We must reimagine our advocacy to protect freelancers, platform workers, those of the LGBTQ+ community, and knowledge economy professionals. These workers are often unseen, unprotected, and unrepresented. CTUSAB is mindful of the work it has to do in order to transition in this time. A vital dimension of our external work has been our engagements with the missions of Barbados. Through these diplomatic channels, CTUSAB has positioned itself as a representative of labor interests, and in the international arena. We have made input on matters of migration, regional labor mobility, and diaspora engagement. This has helped amplify Barbados' voice in this hemisphere. Labor forums and allowed us to establish new links with trade union federations abroad. We must now go further, pursuing international membership in global trade union bodies to ensure solidarity, access to technical expertise, and influence over multilateral labor policies. Another issue that must be addressed with clarity and resolve is the freedom of movement within the Caribbean. While the region benefits from shared human capital and collective growth, the movement of migrant laborers must be accompanied by coherent integration policies, proper labor documentation, and enforcement of social protections. Migrant workers must not be seen as threats, nor should local workers be left to feel abandoned. CTUSAB calls for a regional protocol on migrant labor welfare with enforceable standards to prevent wage suppression and workplace exploitation. While it is important to engage in forward planning, we must do so to look inwards. We must also undertake to look inwards as a first step. CTUSAB must prioritize succession planning. Many of our current representatives has given years of service. Going forward, the future demands that we prepare for the next generation of trade union leaders. This is about mentorship, exposure, training, and handing over with purpose and preparation. Equally, our national responsibility compels us to speak on the issues of crime and social fragmentation. As we noted in our submission to the social partnership, crime is not merely a law enforcement issue, it is a labor issue, a community issue, a consequence of broken systems. We must invest in reentry support for our young people, job readiness programs, school mentorship initiatives, and community networks. CTUSAB is prepared to work with churches, community groups, and other social partners to help restore stability and hope across Barbados. This is our social responsibility. At this juncture, let me remind us of the words of the late South African president, Nelson Mandela, who once said, "Where globalization means, as it so often does, that the rich and powerful now have new means to further enrich and empower themselves, we need to find new ways of holding them to account. And that is the role of strong trade unions." Indeed, we must be strong, but we also must be strategic. We must be firm, but fair. We must be unwavering in our purpose because our relevance depends not just on the number of members we represent, but the clarity of our vision and the courage of our voice. As we look to the second year of our two-year term of office, I propose 5 imperatives. The establishment of full-time executive leadership at CTUSAB. Secure financial sustainability through independent income streams. Expand international representation and membership. Deepen our presence on national decision-making boards, and to modernize our advocacy to meet the needs of the 21st century worker. Delegates, observers, and comrades, builders of our national dream, this is our call to action. Let us ensure that this midterm conference is not just another routine gathering, but a defining moment that rekindles and revitalizes the trade union movement of Barbados. I call on you this morning to let us walk forward, not with fear, but with fire, not with ego, but with energy, not just to be heard, but to heed. CTUSAB stands ready. Let us arise, let us build, let us lead. I thank you.